Hey friends, today's video is going to go over the Dev Insight Prismatic Deep Dive article on Bungie.net and just talk about what I'm excited for, specifically what combinations I would like to try in PvP that give me options to something I can't currently use in the game. By the way, these abilities are time gated, so it will be a while before I'm able to use the final form of all these combinations. You don't exactly have to look on screen right now. I have a notepad full of all the combinations. I'm going to put it on screen. But if you want to listen along, I'm just going to read the description of everything. So let's start with, I'm going to start with Warlock. And the reason I want to start with Warlock is because it seems like the most obvious upgrade compared to some of their light classes. Obviously, I think like, let's say Heat Rises Dawnblade is stronger than almost any combination you can cook up, even considering the class item that could have a like double exotic setup or something like that, because the new class item has, like, for example, the handling from Ophidians and the super gain from Star Eater scales. So this could be anything. We don't know what it could be. And if I could choose any of them, I would choose the jump and shoot of Lion Rampant and the accuracy bonus of Lucky Pants. If I could get both of those on the same gun, same class item, I mean, that would help my gun so much. Anyway, when I look at this Warlock tree, all I can think of, it is just a glow up of the Stormcaller class, which was kind of sad when Arc 3.0 came out because the identity of Stormcaller was using the enhanced grenades. And instead, Titan got all the good stuff about Stormcaller, and all Stormcaller was left with was Lightning Surge. So I'm kind of surprised that Lightning Surge made it on to this Prism subclass. But then again, this is kind of an island of misfit toys kind of a balancing scheme. Overall, I would say the strength of Prism is very tame. When I saw the Vidoc, it lets your imagination run wild. And when the devs in that Vidoc are saying, like, it's broken, it should feel a little bit broken, your mind starts to go a little wild with all the broken combinations in this game. And you're like, what are they thinking? I guess the game's ending. But when you look at all these combinations, they're really, really tame from both a PvE and a PvP perspective. The only thing that will break these wide open is the combinations of exotics that we get on the class item. So starting with Warlock again, I think that the Stormcaller class or whatever, this is just a pure glow up because you're able to use Arcane Needle to get 3 charges of Lightning Surge without requiring an exotic. So here's what I cooked up. The super, I'm going Nova Bomb. Mostly for the cooldown, but there's a fragment where if you pick up an orb, you get an overshield. And with the heavy-handed mod, if you get a melee ability kill, it makes an orb of light. Note that Warlock also has Feed the Void, so if I get the ability kill, I also get Devour, I get all my health back, and then any subsequent kill while Devour is up gives me my grenade back. So it's this perfect loop of Lightning Surge equals all of my health back, and then I get to go on a rampage. And since I have Arcane Needle to backpack 3 of them, then I'm able to use Lightning Surge as a dodge to get in, or blink to get in, Lightning Surge to kill, and then I get all my kills to refill my nade, which might start the next round's push if it was like Trials of Osiris. Class item is Phoenix Dive, but I will switch this to Rift if the Hellion aspect is good or if I end up running Secant Filaments. But Phoenix Dive with Blink sounds incredible because you can blink above their head and they might start doing like a 180-degree turn to try to catch you before you're out of the blink animation, but then you Phoenix Dive back where you came from. I promise this will shatter ankles on console. Movement is Blink. If I have the option for Blink, I'm usually going to take it because there's so many talented snipers in this game. Not that y'all see them in like normal matchmaking or whatever, but Blink is the only thing that allows you to survive essentially cheaters. So yeah, you pretty much have to run Blink. The melee is going to be Arcane Needle. Not only is it the 3 charges of Lightning Surge, but it's also still a range melee that combos with hand cannons very, very nicely. And that will come up, especially if I use Necrotic Grip. The grenade is either going to be healing or cold snap, And since I'm not speccing into discipline at all, I need the grenade to essentially win me a 1v3 while I have Devour up so that I could refill the grenade. So I think healing and cold snap both contribute to that. Aspect 1, lightning surge, kind of a non-decision for me. And I put a note here, how do you even play around this in PvP? Like, I think you could just float with heat rises to outplay it, but not every map can facilitate that. Sometimes the ceilings are too low. So I really don't know what the counterplay is to that. Aspect 2 is feed the void. I just want the nade energy and the health back. It's a no-brainer too. For the fragments, we could scroll down here and read all of these itemized, but a lot of them just don't seem to apply to PvP. And I also don't know how easy it's going to be to build towards that transcendence buff that gives you the combo nade. Let's just read that real quick. Hunter gets Hailfire Spike. Throw a device with stasis solar energy that attaches to surfaces and erupts in a slowing storm. After a short duration, the device ignites, creating a cyclone. Titan gets Electrified Snare. Throw explosive device with strand arc that detonates in a suspending burst. The suspended target takes heavy damage over time and chains jolt lightning to nearby targets. Warlock is freezing singularity, so basically Dustfield and Vortex together. And then it has like a delayed explosion at the end. So regardless of if these grenades are good or not, there's still a free grenade for playing the game. So if those are realistic to proc in PvP, then I will consider them. If not, I'll just pick the no-brainer fragments. So, for example, if it's not realistic to be transcendent in PvP, I'm going to take a protection, which is when surrounded by enemies, you're more resistant to incoming damage, and then hope. While elementally buffed, your class ability regenerates more quickly, right? These are kind of simple effects. And I'm assuming protection works in PvP. The other types of things like that on Arc work in PvP. But if it's realistic to be transcendent in PvP, I would sub those two out for Grace, damage targets with kinetic weapon, grants bonus transcendence energy, and then Justice. While transcendent, your ability final blows explode, which sounds crazy with Lightning Surge, and you could see some like 6 pieces on the opening flag of 6s or something like that of control. But the no-brainer one that I'm always going to pick, fragment number 1, is Purpose. Picking up an Orb of Power grants Overshield. And fragment 2, Dawn. Powered melee hits against a target make you radiant. So that means my Lightning Surge and my Blink get me in. Lightning Surge gets a kill. I get Devour. I get Radiant. I get an Overshield. And then I get to 1v2 the remaining players. I feel like I can pull that off, especially if I have multiple Lightning Surges backpacked. So this is why I think that this specific Warlock combination is just a glow up on Arc Warlock. I still, however, think that Dawnblade and maybe even Stasis Warlock outside of Trials is better than what Prism offers. As well as Weavelock. Weavelock is so powerful on Strand Warlock. So it's not like Prism replaces all the Warlock classes. I think it just replaces Arc. Maybe even Void. Maybe it replaces Void too. But Child of the Old Gods is pretty strong too. So, food for thought. The stats I'm going to go for, depending on what the fragments give: 3 mobility, 7 resilience, 10 recovery, 2 discipline. Remember, I have Devour to offset that. 5 intellect, since I have a somewhat fast super, and as high strength as I can possibly get, as close to 10 as possible. Essential mods, always unflinching, heavy-handed to make the orb, Reaper to make the orb, and recuperation. Because even though I have Devour, I don't have the fragment that gives me Devour on orb pickup. So I need that extra health that it gives me. When I have an Overshield on orb pickup, that's going to allow me to realistically proc Devour after the kill. Because there is like a slight delay on Devour activating after you get a kill. So that Overshield's a nice buffer. For the exotics I want to run, I think Transversive Steps is just the one I'm locking in. But I will consider Astrocyte, Necrotic, and Secants. And if I go Secants, I'm switching out Phoenix Dive for the Rift. And I kind of have a Child of the Old Gods-esque setup. Secants gives you instant Devour when you use a Empowering Rift. So that's very strong. And I'll put a note here. that I will have an Osmiomancy 10 Discipline set up here for playing against cheaters. This is a better version of Stasis Lock since you can have a super that realistically comes up in trials. Next up, I will be doing Titan. There we go, found him. The super I'm choosing is just whichever's faster. It's either going to be Twilight Arsenal or Missile. I have no idea what the cooldown for Twilight Arsenal is. And even though I am using Missile currently, I'm not getting it every single match faster than Bubbles and Wells. So this is kind of contingent on if Bubble and Well get nerfed on whether or not I even humor playing Prism Titan. So for class ability, I would go Thruster or Towering, depending on what I'm using or who I'm playing against. Simple with a dodge or a wall. Movement, Catapult, because I like to plank, which means you jump off a raised surface, float below, float back up. All you're doing is just delaying how long you're exposed out of cover by jumping on and off a structure. It's very, very, very useful for playing your health. Melee, Frenzied Blade. That's the strand melee. I look at it as a sideways aerial dodge, not a melee ability. For the grenade, I think I want to go Glacier Nade over all the other options, mostly because you don't get the enhanced pulse nade like you do on Arc, so that's kind of dead for me. Suppressor is my go-to whenever roaming supers are popular, especially if I don't spec into Discipline. I can just hang on to it for that pivotal moment in the match. Shackle Grenade, I was starting to get good with, but I need to really, really practice up to warrant using them. Thermite, most good players just jump over, even though it is area control. Finally, Glacier Nade. I think Glacier Nade plays into the fantasy of I'm just going to float around with Lion Rampant, Dead Man's Tail. So Glacier Nade is just a platform and a second barricade. So I think that makes the most sense for what Prism Titan uniquely offers for me, which is arguably the best Dead Man's Tail Lion Rampant setup. So I'm going all into that, including Thruster. Aspect number 1 is Knockout. It's non-decision. Like, it's not even close. You just use the network to apply Titan magic and just win anyway. Aspect number 2 will be Drenger's Lash if it works with Thruster, and Unbreakable if not. I believe Unbreakable uses your grenade energy to create a reflex shield. Not exactly like Antaeus. I don't know how strict the timing is. But depending on if I run Unbreakable or not, will depend on if I go high discipline into a useful grenade. Fragment number 1, Purpose, picking up orb equals overshield. Frag 2, Dawn, powered melee equals radiant. Frag 3, Protection, when surrounded, more resistant to damage. And number 4, Hope, while elemental buff, your class ability regenerates more quickly. Those are like the no-brainers. As we see which fragments offer better stats, I'll probably just take the stats. The ones that are usually going to be locked in is orb equals overshield and powered melee hit equals radiant. Both of those are just locked in. Doesn't even matter if they minus my stats. I'm taking them. Okay, stats I'm going for 3 mobility, 10 resilience, 10 recovery. And then I want some combination of 2 to 4 discipline. Let me put that in there. 6, let's say 5 to 6 intellect. And then around 7 strength. Let's say 6 to 7 strength. It's something like that because I don't know what these fragments are going to do. And getting both 10 resilience and 10 recovery is kind of costly. For the essential mods, I want to mention the aerial effectiveness helmet mod that's going to be added to the game around then. That's going to be extremely useful to Lion Rampant to getting to 100 aerial effectiveness at neutral. And I don't know which is better to have multiple targeting mods or trying to get closer to 100 AE. I'm going to assume the AE is more influential. So ideally I have 1 targeting 2 AE, but we'll see. For the exotic of choice, it's going to be Lion Rampant. Nothing else is appealing about Prism Titan to me other than it's just an alternate way to play Lion Rampant. So I'm all for it. Even if it's not a quote-unquote competitive class, it's going to be fun to me, which is why I'm looking forward to it. Now, this Warlock combo I mentioned earlier, that one's going to be competitive as hell and arguably your Warlock's best chance of playing against a cheater. Okay, now let's get to Hunter. Hunter is a mix of both competitive and a sigh of relief that I can finally use an exotic that isn't invisibility or Gemini Jester or Cert Arachnid. Like I could finally just use all of the exotics, not worry about if I have invisibility or a Threaded Spectre or not, because this class gives you somewhat of an option for both. So let's start with the super Deadfall Tether. Why am I doing this? For cooldown and for orb pickup. Orb equals overshield. Class Gambler. Gambler's Dodge is better animation and you don't even need to spec strength. I don't think I did the stats, but I'll do that on the fly. Movement is blink, horizontally teleport between cover. Melee snare bomb, it's the like smoke bomb one. Radar manip and zoning. So if you're playing against another invis player, you just throw a smoke where you don't want them to go, and then they have to break their invis to jump over the smoke. So it's very useful. The grenade is either going to be grapple or dust field, depending on the map size and the amount of barricades I'm playing against. Aspect 1 is Threaded Spectre. This one almost seems non-decision with how powerful Threaded Spectre is. If I called it a barricade radar manip bomb, you would know exactly what I'm talking about for the strengths. So I'll move on. Aspect number 2 is going to be Stylist Executioner, because I can turn invis into a double or a triple kill. So enough said, and it works with the elemental debuffs. It also works with my teammates' elemental debuffs. So it doesn't matter what my teammates pick. If my teammate is a Titan with a plus 40 barricade and a volatile grenade, then if I get the kill, I get Stylist Executioner. The same way, I think if I'm playing with a Titan that uses a Jolt nade, if I kill the jolted target, I think I go invis. That just sounds amazing. And this is arguably the best Rat King class for Hunter too. So fragment number 1, Purpose, Overshield, Dawn, Radiant, Protection, Damage Resist, Hope, class ability regenerates more quickly, which is nice because I have Threaded Spectre, which makes the cooldown a little bit slower. Essential mods, the exact same ones I've been talking about. I'll talk about the stats after exotics. Exotic options, I think I will lock in Gemini Jester, but I do have options. Stompies, Knucklehead, Kepris, Mechaneers, Lucky Pants. I could still go Cert Arachnid on this with the single grapple to have anti-flinch. And now the stats. The stats are so rough. I think I'm going to go both routes. We do like 6 mobility, 7 resilience, 10 recovery, 10 discipline, 4 intellect, 1 strength, right? That's like standard. Or we can try 10 mob, 2 resilience, 10 recovery, 10 discipline. Let's see where we're at for this. I think we get 5 or 6 intellect now. And 1 strength. These are like the 2 permutations that I will likely run, depending on what exotic I run. Because sometimes, like, you want Knucklehead to break the opponent's res gate while also being a tank yourself. It's pretty nuts, especially if you use auto rifles. Anyway, I hope that explains what I'm looking forward to, and maybe me talking about this also gets you excited for Prism without dreading its arrival. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw that Vidoc, I was like, oh no, I might be quitting Destiny earlier than I thought. But nope. I think I'll still be playing for a while. This looks like real fun. A lot of stupid combinations on these trees, especially when you consider the exotic class item. So you will obviously get some commentaries from me going over the dumb stuff. But you might see me playing the competitive setups I talked about, like the Warlock and the Hunter. My Titan, I'm probably going to stick to plus 40 and Arc Titan. It sounds like a better total combo. But who knows? Maybe I just become like human aimbot with DMT. And this is just the obvious pick for me. We will see. Anyway, friends, I will see you in the next one. Hope this discussion sparks some curiosity and excitement for Prism. See ya.